Not quite yet.
Okay.
Setting up
Yeah, I
to
was
go
just,
live
yeah, I was
on YouTube.
noting.
So we'll wait till that goes
Okay.
all the way, and then I can close it. There we go. See everybody. Okay, so I'm gonna get ready to record. Okay, you're now live and we are recording.
I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:16 p.m. Roll call. Aviana? Here. Gutierrez Guari?
Present.
Papua?
Here.
And Rudolph? Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And then we will go to the opening of the regular meeting. I need a motion and a second to approve the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 2. Public comments. Thank you. Item 3. I apologize. Are there any public comments?
We do not have any public comments, but we do have a letter to the board that was submitted, so I'm gonna read the letter. I'm gonna remove my mask just as I read it so that you can hear it and so that the participants can hear it as well. It says, "Dear board members," I have to smile because it's from a student. "I, Kuna, would like to request to have sports teams. To me, lots of kids have potential in sports, but don't get the opportunity to participate in a team. Lots of 8th graders love to play sports, but don't have the experience of how a team works and what you will go through when you fully commit yourself to play sports. Making a sports team can better the future of this generation. You can also get scholarships through sports. But the main reason I would like to request this is so that people who love sports can have fun." And he is a 6th grade student of ours. And during the school reports, Mrs. Baker is going to talk about a combination of what we are offering here for non-competitive and what we're offering through EGC and library and rec that is competitive. But she'll go into more detail later on. So that is the only comment.
Sure, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item 4, board appointment.
So we have 2 candidates that have submitted an application to be interviewed to fill Mr. Owens' seat. One will be interviewed via Zoom and the second one will be interviewed in person. We're going to start with the person via Zoom. In front of you is a worksheet that has the questions that I will be asking. There should be one there for you.
Sure.
Ms. Teresa, do you have 2 of them? No, I only have 1.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. So there's 2 sides for both candidates. There are 7 questions. Just for ease of the interview, I will read all 7 questions. We will do the person on Zoom. You will see them up on the big screen. And then that person will go back to being an attendee. If they give an answer that you want clarification on, you can ask the clarifying question. Then, once we are done with the 7 questions for the first candidate, we will bring in the second candidate, and I will do the same process, ask all 7 questions. If you have a clarifying question, you can ask the candidate. Then they will both be in the room, whether it's via Zoom or in person, and we will take a vote. In order, because there are 4 of you, it either needs to be 3-1 or 4-0. If it's a tie, 2-2, then we don't select either one, and then we'll have a discussion about what our next steps could be. Do you have any questions before we bring in the next candidate, bring in the first candidate? So she is on Zoom. It's Max Sabato. So let me bring her over. Good evening,
Hi.
Ms. Sabato. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the questions, and then you'll answer them. And then if there's any follow-up questions the board may have, they'll ask. And if they don't have any follow-up questions, then I'm going to put you back in the attendee room, and I'll bring in the second candidate.
Okay.
Okay, so question number one. Please tell us a little about yourself and why you want to be a Bayshore Elementary School District trustee.
So I pretty much grew up in Bayshore. All my brothers and my sisters, or my sister, we've been part of the community from sports to all the programs that happen. And I think being an alumni of Bayshore, originally coming from Bayshore and Robertson back in the day, will help because I do know a lot of the parents and the kids, which right now, from what I see, is what we're lacking is like the parent involvement from way back. I mean, at least 6-7 years ago when everything was thriving in Bayshore. Now that there's a lot of lack of parent involvement with everything in the schools, I think I can come help out with my input on helping the board and figuring out where we can get these kids back on track of discipline, behavior, and things like that. I see a lot of lack of it from when everything was around before.
Thank you. What is the role of the school board and what is the most important job of the board?
The role, I'm sorry, can you repeat that again?
What is the role of the school board and what is the most important job of the board?
I think the role of the school board is to, I guess, to be able to help the communication between us, the teachers, the parents, and to help better the future for these kids, from figuring out what budgets we have to help with programs, extra help if kids need it, which I may not have been around for the most recent years, but from what I see and from what kids I know, that's what I don't see anymore, I guess. But to give them the higher education on that note.
Thank you. A parent emails you that their child reported a teacher made an inappropriate comment for the age level of their third grade. How would you respond?
I think a meeting would best work with that situation, just because I know a lot of emails and people writing certain things have the kid there, the teacher there, the parent, and obviously like the principal and higher ups to come to a solution and come to see what really happened or what led to it or what the kid really sees. Because through email sometimes and through phone calls, there can be a miscommunication of what was said. That's what happens a lot of times nowadays is the he said, she said, rather than we get them face front and we can see how we can resolve it together.
What have you done to educate yourself on race and equity within education?
With race, what was the second thing? I'm sorry.
That's okay. What have you done to educate yourself on race and equity within education?
Within education, well, as for me, I know I'm a coach myself. So just learning all the different backgrounds and all the different nationalities and races that I have on my teams helped me pretty much adapt to every different situation. And I use coaching as one of my biggest things, because there's a lot of different races and different incomes, different family types. So you have to learn to adapt to that. And if you can't, you guys work together to come to a solution of it. And I mean, that's one of my biggest things of learning on, races and equity and for education, because some kids, it takes more, a little bit more help than others to get that higher education for them.
What are the most significant strengths and experiences you would bring to the position?
I see experiences, and well, I've done a lot of community work with all the Bayshore kids. I've coached some families from their oldest child that's 21 and up to their youngest child that's still in school at Bayshore. And I think being able to connect with all the families on a different level, to get them involved, to have a better communication with each other, from the board to the parents, to the teachers. Sometimes a different face, or sometimes a comfortable face, helps out with getting these kids the education that they need. Like, some kids react to certain people differently, that they will open up, which will help with the parents come in and, asking a little bit, more in depth, like, how can I help my kid? What do you think? A lot of the parents in the community know me as Coach Max, so that's what I go as. I think being and living in the community and being an alumni helps out a lot more, that I can bring to the table. It's not specific to just one thing. I can be an all around that'll help everybody, the communication better, basically.
Thank you. In what areas might you need some training, assistance, or mentoring?
To be honest, I think I've sat in a couple of the board meetings, all these budgets that you guys have, a little bit more understanding of it. I've never really fully understood it, I guess, because I've never really had to learn that level. But I think that's one of the biggest things I'm gonna need help with, is understanding it.
Do you have any known conflicts of interest to other groups, relationships, or employment?
No.
That was the last question. Are there any clarifying questions from the board? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make you an attendee again. We're going to interview the second person, and then they will take a vote.
Okay.
You can still watch. You should still
All right.
watch.
All right.
Okay, we are going to take a 2-minute break while Ms. Legaspi brings up our second candidate, who is waiting downstairs. You're gonna sit right here. I can see you. Can you slide to your right just a little bit? Perfect. So the people at home can see you. So this is Ms. Marion Brown, and she is our second candidate. And so I will be reading the questions, but you're obviously answering to the board. Please tell us a little about yourself and why you want to be a Bayshore Elementary School District trustee.
Yeah, a little bit about myself. I've been in the community a very long time, over 30 years, raising children, stepchildren that have all attended the school in Robertson. So I've always been active, supportive of the administration. I've always tried to add something that would bring the kids a little more closer, from home to school, to be more comfortable, and yeah, like to see them, recognized for their strengths. So being part of the board, I would like to see them see some cultural awareness in the books and activities in the classrooms, and in the library as well. So I would read to the children throughout their courses in the classroom, different activities like Dr. Seuss, things like that. Just, I like being active with children, and I'm a children's advocate or youth advocate.
What is the role of the school board and what is the most important job of the board?
Well, the role of the school board, I believe, is to take the concerns of the community, but with the giving the superintendent the support to make the decisions to handle concerns, to see that all the children are treated, equally or with equity, and that the standards of their education is kept at a high level.
A parent emails you that their child reported a teacher made an inappropriate comment for the age level of their third grade. How would you respond?
Okay, so the student made this report, and of course the parent would have to the principal and let the principal and teacher work things out and get back to the parent. And if it had to go further, or wasn't addressed, that parent might want to come to the board.
What have you done to educate yourself on race and equity, specifically within education?
In education, I continue to upgrade what I know, my personal knowledge first. Because one, I believe that parents are the first teachers, but to always be able to work with the school and learn what the next steps are, and try to work with the teachers and staff, but also to go a little bit further and go into the library and read the books and just keep up with the upgrades curriculum.
What are the most significant strengths and experiences you would bring to the position?
So at this point, with COVID challenges, I believe that, keeping the kids safe and keeping the community involved, like I've seen happen here, where there's testing, there's trying to see if we can get more vaccinations, pop-ups in the community, not only just this residential side, but in Midway Village, because there's low participation that I think we can bring up. So it's mostly the COVID challenge.
in what areas might you need some training, assistance, or mentoring?
Yeah, so I would think I need to be with the board a lot and observe in the meetings, get to know board members and some of the concerns, even past concerns, so we can revise in a way that will bring us up to standard and maybe in the area of suspensions.
Do you have any known conflicts of interest to other groups, relationships, or employment?
I don't think so. I think they would enhance anything that I would bring.
Any clarifying questions from the board regarding her answers? Thank you, Ms. Brown. So if you want to just go ahead and take a seat back here. We are now going to vote. Well, you are going to vote. I'm not going to vote. You are going to vote. And you have three options. You can abstain, meaning you're not going to take a vote at all. You're going to vote for Ms. Sabato, or you're going to leave it for, yeah, or you're going to vote for Ms. Brown. So either abstain, no vote, Ms. Brown or Ms. Sabato.
Is there any discussion, since it's open session, is the board allowed to have any discussion
Yes.
amongst ourselves while
Yes.
we're doing this?
Yes.
Okay. Does any of the board, did anyone want a statement to the rest of the board members before we vote? Is there anything?
Open session, right?
Yeah, it's open session.
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure if anyone that may wanted to say anything, that they had an opportunity to do that before we go to
Sure.
the vote.
I have no comment.
Okay, I guess we're ready to vote.
Okay, so we'll just work from that way, this way. Board member Papua,
What am I supposed to say?
you're either gonna vote for Brown, Sabato, or abstain.
Anybody else do?
Question? Continue.
I should have sat there. Can somebody else go for?
Yeah, so you can abstain for now, and if we get to a point where it's 2-2, then we can have a discussion for those that voted one way or the other way to try to get her to vote. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's fine.
Stay for now.
Ms. Gutierrez Pilar,
Ms. Sabato.
Sabato,
Abstain.
I'm gonna abstain.
you're gonna abstain. Okay, so then what that means then is that you guys need to have a discussion about whether or not you want to move forward with voting, because if you don't, then we are not filling the seats, and we will talk about what our next steps are.
Yes, correct, yeah.
So the one person that voted can talk about.
So the reason why I picked Ms. Sabato was because of her involvement in the community. I know how much she, her efforts in getting to learn and more about both the student and their families. She will need some training on exactly what the board is responsible for and what needs to be happened through the school administration. But overall, I think that she will have the energy to pursue things that are needed within the school and will make that connection with the students.
I'll just make a quick comment. My initial abstention is based on, first of all, I was impressed with both candidates, and that's one of the reasons why I'm abstaining. I appreciate both candidates, and they both bring unique qualities to the position. And with that, for me, I have a hard time making a choice right this moment, but I do appreciate what you were saying about one of the candidates. But yeah, that is my personal reflection.
Any other two board members want to add?
I have nothing to add.
Does anybody want to change their vote, or are we going to stay with what we have said?
I'm going to stay with abstain, yes.
Okay, so at that point, if, no matter if the only way that it would change is if you, I mean, both of you to either change your vote, or if you're going to continue to abstain, then I'll talk about what next steps are.
Okay. I want to continue to abstain.
Okay, so then what happens is that you did not select another board member, because it needs to be, there had to have been 3 votes for one person in order for that person to have been selected. So now you, the 4 of you have to have a discussion on what you want to do. So we can go through this process again and hold another opportunity for either December or January. That's option 1. Option 2 is we can hold an election in April or June to have somebody actually run for the seat. If we hold the election in April, the minimum amount that it would cost us is $158,000. The highest is $189,000. We could hold an election in June, costing us $11,000 to $14,000. Or we can, and I have to get confirmation on this, so we might have to come back in December and have this conversation. I don't know if we have to do another round in order to, or if we can just hold off till November of next year, because it's almost a year later. And then what's also going to happen is that after tonight's meeting, I have to publish. And so somebody from the community could come and say, we want you to hold an election. And if they come and say, we want you to hold an election, then we have to hold an election. So does that make sense? Okay, so the 4 of you need to have a discussion on we either hold an election, and then you choose if we want to hold it in April or June. You have me go and research if we can hold off until November. Or we can go through this process again in January, which gives us 2 months of us getting other people who would apply as well. And again, though, to your point, they both candidates bring strengths. We do this again in January, you're going to have the same. You're still going to have people who bring strengths, but you have to make a decision to choose. Because right now it's about the 4 of you choosing the person to share this job with you between now and November of 2022. Which I understand is, it's not the normal model, because normally you would run for a seat and you would be elected, and that's not what is happening right now. But we are where we are. So the 4 of you have to decide amongst the 4 of you, because it's not up to me.
That's correct. So, and I understand the circumstances with the retirement with Mr. Owens. This is what we're faced with. I want to thank
Ms. Brown.
I'm sorry?
Ms. Brown.
Yeah, Mrs. Brown and also Mrs. Salvador for attending tonight. But I would like to concur with our board here and discuss what opportunities we have, as what Ms. Dr. Pittman just mentioned, and would hope to resume this in January.
Yeah, I think that I would like to see this, whether it's an election sooner or later. Ideally, obviously, taking fiscal considerations in mind, if the best is to try and see if it's okay to put it in November, then that would be my preference, but I don't want to, I certainly am only speaking for myself.
I also want to state that it's an appointment from now through November,
November.
because whoever wants to stay on the board at that point in time will need to go on the election for that.
Okay, so right now, I heard that, and again, the four of you have to give me direction. One of you can't give me direction. So I heard, I heard one say, let's talk about doing this process again in January. I heard one say, me to do research and go back to legal and find out, would prefer to do an election versus an appointment.
Yes.
And so can we hold the election next November, which means we would have a year of 4 people? Or do we have to hold one at either the April or June? And if so, then I would bring that information back to our December board meeting and we would have a discussion on what that is. So I see heads nodding.
I personally in a position that it's very difficult for me to choose, because the candidates we had tonight were awesome. You know, they have tremendous, and I know both of the candidates personally. Miss Brown has been in the community and she does a lot of other, you know, stuff to help out in the community herself. And Coach Max has established friendship and trust and relationship with numerous of families from. And she's always saying alumni, which is, we wanted to see that. We wanted to see alumni sitting on this table and making those decisions for. But it will be so not fair for me to pick one person knowing that they both bring something valuable to the table. So, and I hate the fact that we had to take another route, that meaning that we had to spend money.
If there
So
were 2 positions open, would you get both of them?
I would get both of them.
If there were 2 positions open, would you take both of them?
Yeah, I will both have Max here and Ms. Brown.
That would be
here.
a possibility, yes.
Yes.
I mean, my personal preference, and this is again my own opinion, is I like to bring things to the public to vote. I'd much rather have the community decide, so it's true community representation. I don't know, especially with, like I said, for me, both candidates were fantastic, and so that's why I took the position I took. And I'm kind of, that's my opinion would be to somehow, whether it's a year from November or earlier, bring it to a vote.
I also want you to keep in mind that if there are 2 positions open come November and they are the only 2 candidates, they will not get a public vote. They will go without
Right, they'll be
a
appointed.
position.
Yes, they will be appointed.
So they'll automatically be elected.
Yep. But again, that's by default, that's still the public's will being done.
Great.
So,
Just want to make sure everybody's aware of that.
This board haven't had any election for so long, or I don't know when. So we're all sitting here got appointed.
So we all know that there is a risk that if
Right.
someone comes from the public indicating that they want an election in April, it will cost the district $158,000.
Yeah, that's correct.
is there, so I guess that would be the other thing is, if the opportunity is to do the, again, I'd much rather have the public vote. But if it's going to cost the district $100,000 or more,
It wouldn't have to. So I know that we could select June. And June, and these are estimates, but they're estimating $11,000 to $14,000. So worst case scenario, June, I would say would be $20,000. Holding it in April, because it would be the only thing on the ballot, is the reason that it could cost between $158,000 and $190,000. I know if we choose to have one, we can hold it in June.
okay,
So the question would be for me to go back to the elections office and to council and find out if we can hold off till November, and it may not cost us anything if only 2 people run
Right.
for 2 seats. Or it would cost us whatever it's gonna cost us. Because if there are 3 candidates running for 2 seats, we automatically have to pay our fair share.
right.
And if they say no, you cannot wait a year, and I honestly, I don't know the answer to that. That you cannot wait a year, then I would come back to you in December and say, we either need to do another appointment, or we need to hold the election in June, and then the four of you can make that decision at that point.
Right.
Okay.
Does that sound like a plan?
I think that's the suggestion that we're
Yes.
probably gonna agree on.
So that's option C then.
So I will go back, and between now and our December meeting, I will find out from legal if we can hold an election in November, or if we have to have something before then. I will then come to our December board meeting, and I will present to you, either we go through an appointment again in January, or we hold an election in June. Those would be my two recommendations, and then the four of you will take a vote and decide what you want.
Okay.
And if between now and then, another seat opens up, then we would add that to the conversation in terms of, I'd still have to follow the same processes of putting applications out there, those types of things. But should another seat open up between now and then we could reach back out to our two candidates, and maybe somebody else would want to then apply, would be a different conversation.
Okay.
Does that work for everyone?
Yes, that works for me.
Okay. Okay, so then, next is item 5 is board reorganization. So I want to take a 2-minute break though, so that I can talk to Ms. Brown. And I will make a call to Ms. Sabado, since she's on Zoom. So we are gonna, those who are watching live, we're gonna take a 2-minute break. I'm gonna stop recording, but you should still be able to see us. You're all still live on camera.
They can hear me.
They can hear you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Brown.
you so much for coming.
Can I please have a copy of that letter that Puna wrote? Is that okay?
Copy of what?
The letter that Puna wrote to the board today.
Yeah, she has. Today, it's pretty, he was all fired up. Oh, God, shoot a child.
Okay, do you mind, our principal is here, but she has to head out pretty soon. Can we move the school reports up so that she can?
So should we renege on that approval of agenda?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah,
Is everyone okay with that?
fine.
So we move item 9 up to replace, it'll be 5B. So it'll still become before consent items?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Okay, so then, thank you very much. So we are recording again. Okay. We're recording again, and now I'm gonna hand it over to Principal, I almost said, never mind, Principal Baker. To talk about parent-teacher conferences and then about the sports program as well.
Okay,
And so it would be great if you sat in that seat so that our people who are watching from home can see you. And now they can see your face and you're facing all of us as well.
okay. Okay, so the first thing, I wanted to just address the comment that Puna made. It was really good timing. I was able to meet with Miguel from BGC and actually talk about the sports programming that they are offering so that I could bring that here and definitely let Puna know, as well as the other kids who have the same concerns. So what's coming down for competitive sports with BGC is basketball through Parks and Rec, starting in January and continuing through March. And then after that, we have flag football, which is run by BGC, and that's going to begin at the end of April and then continue again in the fall of 2022. So in addition to that, those are just two things that are just in the works, and there will be more, I think, especially after, Puna really raising this concern, because this is a very big concern. There should be more opportunities for our kids. The other
Wait,
opportunity.
hold on one second. I just have a clarification question
Okay.
on that. So, is there a boys league, a girls league? It's co-ed. Can girls play flag football if they want? What, do you know the setup?
So I know that the flag football is co-ed. As far as basketball, I don't want to speak about that. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
This was an informal meeting with Miguel. I just knew that this was coming up and I saw him, so I could definitely get more information about that by the next board meeting.
Thank you.
The other opportunity that kids have to participate through our campus is the student athlete club, which I am incredibly proud to tell you about. It is a wonderful asset to this community. The goal is to provide an opportunity for students in middle school from 6th to 8th grade to learn about sports and sportsmanship in a non-competitive environment. We have a lot of students who they're not really ready to go do those competitive sports against other schools, but they really want to try and get their feet wet before they get to high school. So this is the brainchild of Coach Kevin and Mr. Brian Patel, with a lot of support from Mr. Dyson. I know Ms. Santos has also been stepping in to help. And it's been 2 days a week after school. It's being run under the umbrella of the Parks and Rec and BGC program. Because we made this flip-flop with the middle school being on our campus, it's really providing this opportunity for more middle schoolers to be involved with this programming as well as staff. So this has been really great because we have staff who have a lot of experience with sports, and because they can just come, put their sneakers on and come down to the gym, it's really providing an opportunity for kids to connect with staff outside of academic time between 8:30 and 3. I know Ms. Heinrich has been in there on a regular basis. I think Ms. Tatum has been. Mr. Dyson, can you think of other staff who I might be missing who've been coming? Coach Arnold. Mr. Nate, I mean, it's just been a wonderful way for that connection to happen. There's been a feeling that when kids leave middle school, that they get real disconnected from our school, because the middle school experience at Bayshore on our campus has been about 8:30 to 3, and not about after school programming or those kinds of opportunities. So by making this switch and having that extension, it's also providing that atmosphere and opportunity for middle schoolers to really feel that connection to this community as they move on to high school and want to come back and give back to our community. So, yeah, so I'm just, if you see Coach Kevin and Brian, they really worked hard and advocated a lot for this to happen. And it is inspiring to go in there and see what's happening. And Miguel said that to me as well when we were chatting after school today. It's a beautiful thing what they're doing.
You have a question?
Yeah, the first thing that came to mind when sports was brought up, and thank you, Puna, for submitting that letter, appreciate that, was the Midway project. And there is supposed to be an athletic field over there. I don't have the data in front of me, but I'd love to get a confirmation on the timetable and the logistics, because if I remember, the representative from Midway said that that would actually be maintained by the city or part of the city's responsibility. If that is the case, I'd love to get momentum now for whatever needs to be to give the school preferential use of the field during school hours and shortly after, and also figure out what the timetable is and if there's a way to escalate, bring that timetable in.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give an update later on about what has happened over the last couple of weeks.
Okay.
But I will follow up to find out. I can tell you right now, based on the information that they have given us previously, 2 things. Yes, it will be maintained by the city. We would just need to do an MOU with the city. They do an MOU, joint use project with Jefferson Elementary. So I can't imagine they wouldn't do the same for us to allow us to utilize the field. In terms of the timeline, it's the last piece.
Of course.
Because they are, we don't have access to the park right now because that's the first homes that they're gonna build.
Yeah.
And then it is the last piece. But I don't know if they have landed on what it's going to look like, if it's a soccer field with a track, basketball. I don't know what the answer to that is, but I can definitely follow up and ask. I know that they got input previously from community members. And so to ask where they are, if the city has made the decision on what they want it to look like, and how we can play a role in leveraging what that looks like. Yes.
Soccer field. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that?
I know that's one of the first things they're gonna be tearing up is that the former field area.
Yes, because that's where the
So-
first homes are gonna be built.
Right,
Yeah.
but for the future, yeah, you're
That
right.
way, nobody is out of the home.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep, I can do that.
So what time do they meet for the athlete club?
They meet from
3:15 to 5.
Yeah, it's
30.
like 3:30 to
Mondays and Wednesdays.
5:30. Yeah.
And it's open to 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
So I
Which
could,
Puna is in the 6th grade.
yes, so I'm over there at Jefferson. Last home game was last Friday. And I was running the concession. And Puna was there. And then there were a lot of children from Bayshore that came to cheer their siblings that they were playing. And it's such a, like the conversation, gosh, how come, we don't have a football team in Bayshore? I remember my older son, John Tournay, I don't know if you guys heard of him, but he used to coach a football team, and they were children from here at Bayshore, the Narak boys, my son, and then some other children, Jordan, and they were making the team for Pacifica, but they went to play at Pacifica. So when I hear these children talking about games, of the football and the games they like, Puna even put in his letter, and I didn't help him with the letter. I swear.
He wrote it in front of me, so I know that.
So he said, even if it's not happening, but they just want to know the basic, like even before basketball comes, they should know how to dribble the ball. The coach should have, an easy way to teach them, because they're dribbling the ball all the time, so even flag football. So the basic thing, so I would love to see that. And I know volleyball, so I can come and help out when I'm available.
Yeah, board members are welcome.
And I'm just gonna, to your point, I've just had an idea. I think it would be great if we tried to organize maybe some field trips to go and cheer on
Right.
our Jefferson counterparts at a basketball home game or at a football home game. Or I think that would be a great idea if we could somehow organize that.
So they just finished football season, so now it's gonna be basketball. And they do tracks too, and not just,
Yep.
running.
I'll
So-
tell you a story about me supervising track when we're off camp.
So I'm very grateful that you guys have that started already.
Yeah, and one of the things, just as an example of this really intentional teaching, is it okay if I take my mask off? Of sportsmanship, is Coach told me last week that he was recording them. He would record them when they're playing. And then there would be these moments where the kids were like giving each other high fives and cheering each other on. And he was using those as an example. He showed them to the kids, he pulls the screen down, like it's a really great setup for what he's doing. And then they talk about, noticing how they were responding to each other and really encouraging good sportsmanship. And so it's not just about being really good at a sport, it's about participation, it's about how respect and how we treat each other. And so it's so much bigger than that, which is, I think, what intimidates a lot of kids from doing competitive sports, is feeling like it just gets into this really hyper competitive, which has its place too, but I think this is providing an opportunity for all of that, because there's so many different levels and capacities that kids are bringing to this sports program. And then, so that's my report about that part, and I was going to talk about parent-teacher conferences if there were no further questions about
Can you
that.
find out how much it will cost for a child to play the basketball and?
With BGC, or there's no fee.
There was no cost.
Okay.
Pre-COVID, I mean, we had basketball teams that were playing, and it was exciting, it was competitive,
Yeah.
and it was great representation for our school pre-COVID. But I think a lot of our students now are wanting to get back into the athletic portion of it and compete.
Yeah, our flag football team.
Yeah.
I don't know how Miguel has connections with the
Right.
49ers, but
He does.
he does.
Yeah.
You know,
And he's taken the flag football team to the Levi Stadium. So yeah, I'm excited to,
Yeah.
you guys know I'm a huge sports fan. so
And
I'm
maybe we
excited
can
to-
reach out to the coaches that used to coach the team, if they want to be part of this club.
I think it's a great opportunity for alumni, for board members, for, people in the community to come and really help us. It's a piece of, it's an initiative that is going to help us become on this path to being the community school that we are, but that we need to grow more into, because this is this is blurring the boundaries between just school is where we do this thing and then we're done. So at the block party, there were a lot of alumni who came and were astonished to see how much more there was around community outside of just regular school hours. And I think that's a goal that we have, So parent-teacher conferences are coming up. They are going to be virtual and in person, kind of depending on the parents' the needs of the parents. School is getting out at 1 o'clock all week, and that's about all I have to report about that, other than to say that many more and more of our teachers are embarking on the student-led conference journey, which is really wonderful to see. This week, I've seen a lot of teachers and working with their students to prepare slide decks they're going to share with their families around the work that they've been doing in school and their goal setting. And it's not just the teacher talking about how the child is doing, but the child talking about how the child is doing, which I think is a really powerful piece of student voice and advocacy and understanding education and owning education. So.
Quick on that, it's kind of tangential to the parent-teacher conferences, but where are we with the launch of, I think it was November, Data Zone? Are we going to do it like a launch of some sort in November? Is that still the plan?
So I was still cleaning up the data.
Okay.
We're still adding our Bountis and Penelope data.
Okay.
And I actually am working with her to get that rolled out. And again, we can't, I can take screenshots of the data and put that on our website. And so I'll probably have all that ready and cleaned up at our December board meeting.
Okay.
And then teachers will have an opportunity, we'll do a training with the teachers, so for them to log in and be able to get a full picture around individual students.
Okay, so they wouldn't be able to leverage that until because I would imagine teachers would be able to do the same thing, they could have.
Yes.
And take,
So it's not gonna be ready for next week.
okay.
For them, there's still data that they're cleaning up in there. But the goal would be if we do spring conferences or anytime we then have another parent-teacher conference, teachers would be able to, yes, pull that up and have the snapshot of each child to talk with the family about. This is all the data that we have on your child.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're still on target for January with that. Okay. With Data Zone. I'm sorry.
So then, thank you, Mrs. Baker.
Thank
So
you.
then next, we have a presentation. We're gonna stick with that and then we'll go back regarding our musical. And so I'd like to introduce Mr. Dyson, and then he has 3 people that are gonna join us virtually. So I'm gonna move them over to
Seems like that's
we're
the
gonna
hot
see
seat.
them
Adjust
up
the camera
there.
a little.
So we have Andrea Yukol. We have Kalia Muth. Make sure I'm moving the right people. Uh-oh, what happened? And we have Serene Benitez.
Yes.
And so. So ladies, you are all on mute right now. So you are going to need to unmute yourself, and I'm going to do a gallery so that we can see a bigger picture of you. So I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Dyson, and then the 4 of you are going to set the stage.
Great. It's a pleasure to be here. So these students are yes, all of them are part of the arts, media, and entertainment elective that we are doing. This year is my first year in the past 2-3 years not working with middle school. And so it's exciting to get back to working with them. Having said that, Kalia and Andrea have both been in one of our first musicals that we did a few years ago, which is called Dear Nina. So now come to COVID, we had planned to do another musical before that happened, shut us down. And so we decided this year, since I'm working back with middle school, we would inch it in and try to do it again. And so this year, we're doing a musical review, and I'd like, maybe Kalia, can you talk about what a musical review is?
Yes, sir. Oh,
Uh-oh, hold on a sec.
we can't hear you, Kalia.
Still on mute on top.
No,
She's
that,
not.
That's
She's
her.
unmuted,
she's
so
unmuted.
Maybe it's her mic.
check your mic. Okay. While she's doing that, so, what we're doing is a few songs, and I have several of them. Andrea is a performer, Kalia is a performer. There are other 7th graders. There's a couple of 4th graders, a couple, maybe 1 or 2 5th graders who are a part of the performance. It's going to be December the 16th, when we will do our winter concert that will go into the musical review. Can we hear you now, Kalia?
Hello, can you hear me?
There we go.
So let's tell us. Yes.
A musical review is like a non-dramatic concert style musical that focuses more so on the songs.
Right.
Oh my God.
And Andrea, can you also tell us a little bit about this review that we're doing?
So it's a musical review that showcases songs from some of the greatest musicals like High School Musical, Junie B. Jones, Annie's, and Matilda the Musical.
Nice.
And Serene is on the production side. So I can't remember what part will you be doing with the production side, Serene, you want to share?
I help out telling the cast which when and how they will perform.
Yeah. So she'll be one of either the stagehands or helping with other things backstage. We have several students who are helping to make the entire production work well from beginning to end. So we'll be also assisting the elementary kids as well. I don't know if you have any questions.
So just clarify,
Yes.
this particular musical review is live streamed. How is it being shown to our community?
Excellent question. So this review is being live streamed. The students are running the live stream, they're running the lights, they're running the sound, they're running everything. We have not planned to have an audience because of the way things are at present. There's something I want to talk to you about after. I mean, I don't know if I could say this. I guess I'll go ahead and say it. We talked about possibly having maybe board members or city officials that might want to come and sit and watch, because we can't really bring all the parents in.
Right.
But I did mention that to them, and they did say it was okay. So
Can we get VIP seats in the front?
Really small.
it's very small.
Yes.
Will there be a price per ticket or
There will be no tickets.
donations welcome?
Yes. Please donate.
Okay.
Yes.
And eventually, we're gonna get back to a place where post-COVID, where we will be able to have, obviously, like Broadway, San Francisco is going on. So we're on our way. We're just not there yet from a school setting. Because we have students, masks are still expected to be worn. Anytime we go in, you need to wear masks. And so we're not, this isn't adults just coming in and saying, I am comfortable being in this environment. So we're still making sure that we are being really mindful and following all of the protocols so that we keep our kids safe and our families safe. But knowing that as we do this, we will eventually get to a place where our students are going to be performing in front of large groups again. And so we're really excited about this.
Great.
And I also want to say that to start things off, I think we talked about this you talked about this in a previous board meeting. Kalia and Andrea were two of the students that we were able, because of the donations of the staff and some teachers, to take them to see Hamilton, which kind of prompted their excitement to do what we're doing now. So
Great.
Public thank you to the staff and teachers who donated to help make that happen. And there is plan to take them to other musicals in the city or wherever else. Actually, they're they want to go to see Wicked in San Jose. So
Oh,
at some point.
Well, I thought you were gonna say New York.
That's possible too. Actually, Kalia's sister, we took her to New
Right.
York to see Wicked.
Wow,
Yeah, so
that's awesome.
that's where we are.
So ladies, I don't know if you can see or hear us, but we want to give you a round of applause. Thank you. Excited, and I appreciate that you were able to make time tonight to be with us virtually, and to be on camera, to share with the Bayshore community all the great things that you guys are doing. So thank you.
Mr. Dyson.
Yes.
I want to personally thank you. How long you been with us?
I've been with the district 16 years.
Right.
So with that said, we're gonna make an announcement since he's sitting here and you
Wow.
want to change and you want to congratulate him. Mr. Dyson, through partnering with Mrs. Baker and the San Mateo County Office of Ed, this year has officially earned his CTE teaching credential. And he was able to earn that based on his work experience in arts and with music. And so we are really excited that he is an officially credentialed teacher.
Good job. Good job, probably.
So thank you, Mr. Dyson.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Dyson.
Congratulations.
And I'm looking forward to the music review.
Yeah. And we all know everything you're involved in is always
That's
spot
right,
on.
it's always good.
You're awesome. Appreciate you.
The families and the students.
So next, I'm gonna go back to board reorganization.
Okay.
So that is on here, because we had a meeting this past Monday. It traditionally happens there's one meeting once a year unless somebody, submits to the San Mateo County Committee on Reorganization, to change boundary lines. So this was the one meeting and they were voting for seats. And so, board member Gutierrez Pilare was our selected person, and then she possibly could not have made it. So board member Aviana had volunteered and said that he would go. When I told them that, their response was that he can go, but he can't vote because he's not a selected alternate from the board.
Right.
So I shared that with them. Board member Gutierrez Pilare did everything she could to be there. Thank you. Board member Aviana went to get information just in case, but I said what I would do, and I communicated this with my colleagues as well, because none of them were aware that they needed an alternate either. And so we're all moving forward on getting alternates. And so tonight I would like to select our alternate just in case, because we know how important this committee is. And should something happen and Joy can't make it, we have somebody that can go and cast the vote and represent our district, because there could be an opportunity where somebody comes and asks to have the boundary lines changed, it has an impact on us, and we need to make sure we have a vote. So I need a nomination for an alternate.
I nominate Rick.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Rick, are you voting for yourself or are you abstaining?
Abstain.
Abstaining, okay. Okay, so Rick is the alternate, and then, quite honestly, we will do this process again at our December board meeting when we do our annual reorganization. But just in case a meeting happened between then and now, I wanted us to have an alternate.
No, that's great. It sounds like we weren't the only district in that
We
situation.
are not the only district, because I reached out to several colleagues thinking I had dropped the ball, I didn't understand, and all of them said, no, we don't have an alternate, but we will in December.
I honestly, I was ready to go the night before, and then she emailed me, and I was like, what? But it's all
See your
good.
face there.
Yeah, it was nice. Learned some things there.
Where did they host the meeting?
Zoom.
It was
It was
on.
on.
They said for this type of meeting, it's good that we could do it on Zoom instead of having you come out to the.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure. So that doesn't fall under any sort of Brown Act.
What does it?
The committee for reorganization of districts, they can meet on Zoom when they want to.
I didn't know because it's a committee.
Committee.
So I will definitely confirm. Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think so, But I will confirm.
just for
Yeah, for
knowledge.
future, yeah, absolutely. So I will ask if AB 361 affects the county committee. Okay. Okay, so now we're on consent items.
Okay. Back to item 6, I would need a motion and a second to approve the consent items. Unless there's any questions.
A motion to approve consent items?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Move on to item 7, educational services, and I will hand it over to Superintendent Pittman.
Yes, so first, I am going to do a presentation, where we did this, on, as we talked about, MTSS, multi-tiered system of supports, specifically around our academic tier. And then we'll do a public hearing on our educator effectiveness block grant. So this is a visual from the state. We've seen this before because we've given you presentations on MTSS and the California SUMS initiative. So as you can see in the middle, there are 3 components. There's academic, behavior, and social emotional, with the whole child in the center. And this is the idea that all means all. We reach every child and we reach them in every element of those 3 areas. Because you can't truly be a whole individual unless you tackle all 3 of those components. And some of us may need more help in one than the other, and we might need help in all 3, or we might not need help in any. And so that's where we go through how to support our students so that they can be successful. And so within each one of those 3 areas, there are 3 tiers. So tier 1 is universal, tier 2 is supplemental, and tier 3 is intensive. And so tier 1 for universal means this is afforded to all students. Every student who comes to Bayshore gets these elements. So they have standards aligned curriculum in all of our content areas. Teachers College Readers Writers Workshop. For math, we're using SWAN in 2nd grade, and we're piloting illustrative math in all the other grade levels. We use our FOSS kits for science. We use TCI for social studies. We obviously have PE, and then all of our students participate in music. So every single child gets to participate in all of these elements. All of our classes use standards-based grading from kindergarten through 8th grade. All of our students' parents are contacted and participate in receiving trimester report cards. So you're notified how your child is doing every 12 weeks versus at the semester. And then there's fall parent-teacher conferences that we require, highly enforce, all parents attend, whether, and the beauty of COVID has allowed us an opportunity to now have parent-teacher conferences via Zoom, which, like back to school night, has given us a higher attendance rate. Because if you have a parent who has to work and can't get away from work to drive here because they work an hour away, they can get on Zoom and still have that conversation, and they can do it during their lunch hour or during break and it not affect their job. And I think that that's a great, that's one of the bonuses, the pluses that we need to acknowledge as we come out of this pandemic, that we want to make sure we continue. Small group instruction occurs in all of our classes, specifically around reading. We have one-to-one technology. I'm still really proud of this, that all of our students have access. Kindergarten through and 1st grade have access to an iPad. 2nd through 8th grade have both an iPad and a Chromebook. And then as we transition through the pandemic, we were already one-to-one, but now we make it available so that they can actually take it home if they need to take it home. There is no child on our campus that has to go without access to a computer, a Chromebook, an iPad, or to a hotspot if they need a hotspot. Any student who needs it, the parent just needs to ask. Our teachers communicate that with our students and with our families. And when we are seeing that they aren't doing things, we just call them and say, we're going to check this out to you. It's not an issue. Field trips we offer, obviously we want them to be educational. Obviously over the past 2 years, we've kind of pulled that back a little bit in terms of going to a field trip, but our teachers have been phenomenal in terms of researching and having virtual field trips. So we have speakers who come and present to the classroom via Zoom, and kids are still able to participate in a field trip-like experience that benefits their classroom. And then obviously the library is available to all of our students as well. So this is tier one is meant, the idea is that it's meant to reach 80% of your population. So 80% of the population should be successful utilizing tier one supports, tier one instruction. Then you have some students that just need a little bit more. So this is when we might hold an SST meeting, which is a student study team. So a student might be struggling in one specific subject area. And so the teacher is going to reach out to Principal Baker, is going to reach out to the family, and we're going to have a meeting to talk about what are some areas that this child needs some support. So it's not, we don't go from I'm struggling to all of a sudden I have to get an IEP and I go through special education. We have a conversation about what's going on. We try some strategies in the class, and if it helps, then we know we're headed in the right direction. Again, small group instruction. So this is in classrooms where we're able to tailor the instruction based on either the needs of the kids in that particular class. So we might do a homogeneously grouped kids who are struggling with their multiplication facts. I'm going to bring them in and I'm going to focus on that. Or I might do a heterogeneous group. So when it comes to small group instruction, and so that's where that iReady information comes in. So the kids have taken the assessment. It then can give our teachers groupings of kids to say, this group of kids, you want to focus on this with them. And so then they can do small group instruction in that class with them. Having our instructional aides in the classroom supporting small groups or individual students is a level of tier 2. Peer support, if we have older students who want to tutor and go down to the lower grades. LLI reading, this is a tier 2 support because students might be behind 2 to 3 levels below grade level in reading, but they don't qualify for an IEP. They do not have a disability that is affecting their learning. Therefore, we have a system that we can put them in. And so the teachers are determining their reading level using our Fountas and Pinnell. We're also using iReady and our CASP scores. And then they are meeting with our LLI instructors during the week for 30 minutes, 3 to 4 times a week. And at our December board meeting, I will actually bring the data on how our kids are doing in that program. So we can see the growth that our kids are having. And then we also offer after school math group. And so that's taught by Miss Oriana. And so again, this is just an extra layer of support that students might need. I see a question.
Yeah, the math tutoring, so is that only available to students that have to go through a qualification process?
No, it's that's actually open to anybody who thinks that they might need help with that.
Okay.
Multilingual? Multilingual?
Multilingual, yes, at least in Spanish.
How many students do we have so far in the tutoring, math tutoring?
That's an excellent question that I don't have the answer to. I think it's between 15 and 20. I think it also changes, but I will bring that number back to our December meeting as well.
And then one more, is there an age or a grade level as to what she's teaching in the tutoring or?
So I believe it's 5th grade and above,
Okay.
but I will follow up on that as well. And if we have so then the other piece is, for example, one of our LLI instructors also participates in, she works for BGC in the after school program. And so what we're doing is streamlining. So she's going to be able to use that LLI curriculum with kids who are in BGC and open up slots for kids who don't go to BGC to do during the day. And so I will follow up to see how is BGC supporting math support for the lower level kids. And I'll bring that information to our December meeting.
Great, thank you.
Yes. And then tier 3 should be the smallest population because this is really the highest need students. Yes.
I'm sorry, I have a question on tier 1.
Oh, yes.
Tier 1 and tier 2.
Yes.
So tier 1, you say 80%. So I'm assuming the 20% now fall down to.
Yes, we go into
trickles
tier
down.
2 and then to tier 3.
And then.
But they all still get, even if you're in tier 2, you're still getting tier 1, and this is in addition to.
Okay, and then tier 2, how many students are considered in the small group?
Anywhere from 2 to 5 kids.
2 to 5.
Yeah. And then tier 3 is intensive. So our current percentage of students who qualify for an IEP ranges anywhere between 10 and 13%, which is pretty standard in the state of California. But these are students that either qualify for an IEP, they qualify for a 504, or we might provide them with learning center support. So for example, one of our learning specialists might be doing a small group with students who have an IEP, and we have another student that doesn't qualify for an IEP, but has similar struggles with where they are in their reading. So she might bring them into their group. And so that would be a tier 3 intensive support.
Is there any way we can get, Mr. Rudolph, this is your area of specialty. Like, I want to see the numbers.
I can bring you numbers.
With
Yes.
with the tier 1.
Sure, I can do that.
And so we kind of see what's.
So in December, I'm going to bring you numbers within each tier. I will also bring you numbers in LLI and growth. And then I know our numbers for students with IEPs.
And then can that be categorized to within grades?
Well, yes, depending upon what the number is, if it gets too small, we don't like to share out those numbers because then you know who the child might be. So, but
Closed session.
no,
But we're not going to mention the child's name.
no, we're not going to mention children's names.
So that's part of the data that we're gonna see a
Yes.
review in data zone.
Yep.
Correct, okay.
But I will have that report at our December meeting with all of those numbers.
Okay. So obviously, since we're how far back in the timeline are we loading data for? How many years back?
So data zone, I think, has cast the data back 3 years,
Okay.
but we didn't take it the last 2 years.
Right.
So, and then they have, I think the attendance, so it's tied to our school information
School-wide?
system. Yeah, it's tied to school-wise. And so I'll follow up, and to see what years they go back.
The only reason I ask that is because ideally, once we get a critical mass
Yes.
of data, it'd be great to see trends.
And that they will give us. Right now, we're not gonna see trends just because we're coming out of the pandemic, and so there's a lot of data that isn't there for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
But yes, we will definitely get to a point where we're gonna be able to see our growth, or loss, depending upon what it is that we're looking at, over multiple years.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can we do a comparison to pre-COVID?
We can, but the problem is with that is just because the impact that COVID has had, we don't, like, I think the drop is higher than it might have been had we not had COVID. So yes,
Considering,
so
but
there would be an asterisk. We could definitely
Right,
look at the data and then we would put an asterisk and say year 1 after COVID. And then so we would know, just so that we're looking at the data, we know what was going on in the world at the time.
Well, and also we could then compare if other districts have any of this is public information, we could compare.
Yes.
Obviously, there was learning loss over
Yes.
COVID, so
Yeah.
that should be across the board, but it'd be interesting to find out if our district is had the same experience as other districts or
Right.
different experience, one way or the other.
Yes, yeah. Yes. So the next is the Educator Reflectiveness Block Grant. So, this money is available for us to use through June 30th of 2026. It's a total of $114,992. So we need to put together a plan that says, how are we gonna allocate these funds? We will, tonight is a public hearing, and then we would adopt at our December board meeting. And then because it goes through 2026,
I know.
there are lots of opportunities for us to adjust as we move through, because we may find that we need more of one and less of something else. Because realistically, $114,000 is not a lot of money over the course of 5 years.
No.
No, but it is. I'm never gonna leave money on the table.
No.
So we are allocating over the course of the 5 years, $40,000 towards ELA coaching. So have a coach come in and support our teachers on reading instruction. $20,000 on supporting our teachers in accelerated learning. So closing that gap, not remediation, but acceleration. $20,000 around anti-racist professional learning and coaching. $10,000 to support inclusive practices in UDL. So as we talk about students with IEPs, including them in the class, and how are we actually designing the class to make sure that they are supported. $20,000 to provide coaching for our teachers on how to support our English learners. $4,992, because we had to do the $992.
Yeah, I saw that.
To support our teacher team, so paying them stipends over the next 2.5 years to design our new ethnic studies curriculum,
Right.
Both in the middle school and down in K-5. So that's how the money adds up to the $114,000. Again, you're gonna open a public hearing, ask for any comments, close. Nobody is here to give public comments today, but between now and December, somebody might. And so then we would bring that back, and then you would actually adopt it at the December board meeting. And then again, we can make it, even though it's adopted, it's not set in stone. There are multiple opportunities for us to make adjustments as we work through 2026.
Is there, if I make a quick question?
Yeah,
comment?
absolutely.
Obviously, everything that's listed here is great, and so I'm not making this comment to say something should be bumped or anything, but I think, could any of this be used? We know we have a substitute shortage.
Mhm.
Is there any way that these funds could also be used as an incentive to help maybe some of our instructional aides that want to advance and get certificated?
That could be an option. So I've had conversations with our aides. So there are 2 ways for our aides to become substitutes.
Mhm.
One is they either already have to have a bachelor's degree. So I've spoken to those who do and have asked them to apply for their sub-credential. 2 of them are working on that. Others have said no.
Okay.
Okay. And then if they are currently enrolled in a accredited bachelor program and they have 90 units, they can apply. So I've spoken to those aides who fall into that category, and they are debating it and working through in their mind. I have every confidence. I would love for all of our aides absolutely to have their sub-credential. And those are the conversations that I've been having. We could use this if part of their concern is how to pay for them to, absolutely, we could use some of these funds to pay for that. And then I'll talk about something different.
Okay.
So yes, that is an option. And yes, I've had those conversations with the staff who call.
Okay.
And then obviously if they are a sub, they get paid our sub rate. They don't get paid to be an aide as they're leading the class.
No, I was just thinking, since these are kind of one-offs, if there was like a fee to become
We could, yes, we
certificated,
could pay for that.
and that was a
I do
hurdle
not
for
want that, yeah,
financial hurdle,
that
then-
should not be a barrier to
Okay.
them getting those, no. And so I will make sure that I communicate to them again, that if that is the barrier, I will remove that barrier. Bayshore will remove that barrier. If the barrier is they just don't feel comfortable being quote unquote in charge of the class all by themselves, because right now they do then we will work with how we remove that barrier by supporting them and recognizing and letting them know that we have all the faith in the world and we will provide you with support so that you know that you can do this. Yes. So you have to open the public hearing.
Finish that. Okay. Public hearing for Educator Effectiveness Block Grant opened at 8:47.
7:47.
Sorry.
Not changed your clock.
No, I
Daylight savings.
apologize. Oops,
There are no public comments.
no public comments. Okay, public hearing is closed at 7:47. Okay. Item 8, business and fiscal services, and I will pass it back over to Superintendent Pittman.
So for developer fees for the month of October, we received $0. So then, next is, I am giving a question was asked at a previous board meeting, so I said I would bring our financial numbers on what it actually costs to run our special ed program. And so our revenues, so this is how much money we receive from the federal and from the state, is a total of $397,398. That money all goes to our SELPA, which is out of the San Mateo County, and then it's dispersed amongst all of the districts based on ADA. So we obviously get less money than other districts because we have a smaller amount of students within our district. So it's a total of $397,000. Our expenditures within our special education program this year is $834,000, which is a decrease of what we paid in the past because we actually brought some of our students back to school, and or we had 8th graders who were placed in a county program that are now in high school. So certificated staffing includes the teachers, a portion of me. It's really, obviously, if we're using from our general fund, it's really not coming out but we have to tag, since I'm the person who oversees special education, we have to say a portion of my salary comes from it. And our psychologist comes out. And this is not just salaries. This is salaries, health and welfare benefits, STRS, our retirement, unemployment expenses, all of those fees that we have to pay for a person who is on our payroll is included in that number. Classified staffing includes all of our aides that are our instructional aides that are sprinkled throughout the school, as well as our 3 aides that are within our SDC class, and our nurse. Our behaviorist, this is a portion of what we pay our behaviorist because she works with students who have IEPs and students who don't have IEPs. So this is not our total amount that we pay her. This is just what comes out in terms of supporting students with IEPs. We pay for speech. Related services is our OT, occupational therapist, any PT, those types of services. Supplies is if we have to buy anything. Specifically, we're spending the majority of our supplies is setting up our SDC class because they have different needs than our students who are mainstreamed. And then County Office of Ed related services. So this is adapted PEP. That person works for the County Office of Ed. We have at least one student who receives APE, it's called APE, in addition to being in the regular PE class. And so we have to pay somebody with a specific credential to offer that. So with that said, we are contributing, of our total expenditures, $834,000. We are contributing 52% of that comes from our general fund. That offsets the expenditures that are spent. That's actually quite good for the state of California. I spoke with our SELPA administrator today, and she said the average district in California, 65% of their expenditures comes from their general budget, from their general fund, versus what is provided to them from federal and state money, specifically for faith and students with IEP. So the fact that we are only contributing 52%, we're actually not doing too bad. Does that make sense?
Not too bad for a small district.
Yes. Obviously, we would like to do better. And so these are the conversations so there's a conversation right now. West Ed is doing a study statewide on making adjustments to how special ed is funded. Obviously, we're not funded. Students who have IEPs have higher needs, and therefore there should be more funding to help support them with their higher needs. And the way that it's set up, we already know this to begin with, public education in California is not funded at the rate it should be funded at to begin with. Then when you add, especially a small school district like us, when you have high needs, we can't scale it. And so it can be a little bit more cost inhibitive to provide special ed services. But there are kids, we want to do that, and 2, we have to do that. And so there is conversation with the state right now. I'm not saying it's good or bad. There's just conversation about how to look at funding for special ed. Because right now it's all based on ADA, and it's not based on the actual needs of the students. And there's kind of a reason for that, because you don't want districts to start having students qualify for IEPs so that they can get more money. That's not the answer. The answer is to provide the districts with the money they need in order to serve the kids that they have.
Right.
So for the COE related services, the 29, I would like to take that away And how do we make that happen? So if we're bringing our special in, then our teachers should be equipped. So that way we
This
don't
is-
need that
That, I
services.
would love for that to happen, but if I can't hire an AP, it's me contracting out for a small amount. So for
And then how
example,
many students do we need and how often does that APE teacher has to be on campus?
he comes onto campus once, maybe twice a week, providing services for that particular student. And then vision services for students who need vision, is paid for out of that as well. And so this is the most cost effective, because I can't hire somebody for that dollar amount, and I don't have the number of students that actually need that. So whether I contract with them or I contract with somebody else, I'm still contracting out. But it's not for a teacher who is provide, like, for example, the reason I wanted us to have our special day class with our 5 kids who are in that class is because prior to us now having our own program, we would have sent those children to the county office, and they would have been in schools that were not our schools. And you all know that I believe our kids who live in our community should be served by Bayshore. If we can provide the classroom and the support for them, we should. Now, there might be a case where we aren't the right fit because of our size, because they have certain needs that we can't offer, but in this particular case, we can. And we are providing the services to our students that are our children that we should be providing, and we're not sending them away to the county office. But there are still some things that we still are gonna have to contract out for. So for example, related services. I'm not hiring an OT to be here on staff. Our psychologist was part-time, so we share her with Brisbane because she's here 2 days a week and she's there 3 days a week. So unfortunately, in a district of our size, there are always going to be some elements that we have to contract out for, but we are at a much better place this year than we've been in the past.
No, I want to see in the future that our teachers that we have should have that resources. And so instead of having somebody from outside, our teachers here should be given those resources. So instead of spending the money on them, we can spend the money on our teachers that are internal already. That's what I want to, so like for a PE teacher, I don't know.
What would it cost? What would it take?
What would
for
it
him?
take?
So
Yes.
that I can look into.
What
Yes.
it would take for
Yes.
us to
For him
train
to
our
have his
PE
adaptive
teacher,
PE
right,
credential,
and
yes.
give him the same amount of money.
That's a great.
Yeah, I can definitely look into that. I don't know, I don't have the answer to that on specifically for APE. It might just be taking a test. It could be you having to go back to school and do an entire year, and the teacher may not want to do that. But I can definitely research and see if that is an option. Yeah.
I'm just trying to map, so to the previous slide. So
Yeah.
everything that's on this slide 10, does that fall under tier 3 services?
Yes.
Okay, so that is all under tier 3 services. So that said, so like LLI is under tier 2.
Yes.
So that is not.
That is not part of
this.
special.
Okay,
So students who are receiving LLI predominantly would not have an IEP.
okay,
We'd be served, they might, but it would not be a large portion of them, and we are not using special ed funds to pay for LLI.
okay. And this is just for my own. So LLI, is that, how involved are the teachers? Are the teachers actually doing the LLI?
No, the LLI, the kids are pulled out 3 to 4 days a week for 30 to 35 minutes,
Instructional aides.
based on where they are in their reading level. We have instructional aides who have been trained in the LLI curriculum, which is standard practice among schools. But the teachers are involved in that they are providing the data in terms of how a child qualifies if they need LLI. And they are making the recommendation, and they know that the child is going to get LLI. And so then eventually the goal is that the students will grow the 1 to 2 years that they're behind within an 18-week time span, and then we'll go back into their class and not be pulled out again.
Okay,
And then be participating at grade level.
okay. And again, I'm just, so from an org chart level, instructional aides, if my understanding, they would report directly to the principal.
Yes,
Instructional aides, but they're taking a dotted line from the teachers
Yes.
themselves. So the input from again, just talking LLI
Yep.
right now, is basically getting the input from the teachers
Yes.
themselves.
so all of the aides, their direct supervisor is the principal. there.
Yeah, okay.
They work through though, because obviously, for example, we have 2 kindergarten aides that are in the kindergarten classes all day. So technically, their direct supervisor is their kindergarten teacher because they're co-teaching together and the teacher is giving them guidance on what they should be doing and how they're being supported in the classroom. But the teacher does not have a credential to supervise them. And so their quote unquote supervisor is Mrs. Baker.
Okay.
So if they have questions about hours, if there's any issues with that, they would always go to Ms. Baker.
I mean, again, and this is just makes it easier for me. I always think of that as like the solid line versus the dotted line.
Mhm.
So the solid line is Principal Baker.
Yes.
The dotted line would be the teacher or teachers,
Yes.
because I imagine.
Yeah, if they work with
Sure.
multiple,
LLA.
Because we have, yes, so for example, the LLI, they're actually working with multiple teachers because the student may be in the 5th grade, maybe in the 4th grade, maybe in the 3rd grade. Aides who are attached to, so for example, if we have an aide who is attached to one student, if that student is in K-5, then they work directly with that one teacher. They also work with Mr. Dyson and Coach Santos because that child goes into those classes as well. If it's a middle school child that they're supporting, then they work with multiple teachers because the child goes to multiple teachers throughout middle school, whether it's 6th grade, they have both the math and science teacher, and then they have their English and social studies teacher, and they have Mr. Dyson, and they have their elective, and they have Coach Santos. If they're in 7th or 8th grade, they have 3 content teachers, meaning they have their math and science teacher, they have their, they have their math and science teacher, they have their social studies teacher, they have their English teacher, they have their elective, they have Mr. Dyson, and they have Coach Santos.
Okay.
And so if an aide is working with a 7th grader, they might be working directly with all of those teachers. They might not, this child might just need support in English, so they're working specifically with Ms. Santos, because that's the 7th and 8th grade English teacher.
Okay. But at the same time, again, the direct line.
The
would be
direct
to
line is Mrs.
Principal
Baker.
Baker, because
Yes,
if for some reason a conflict of interest arose between the 2 teachers giving
Yes.
input to the
Correct.
instructional aid, the aide
Yes.
should go to
yes,
this.
and say, this teacher is telling me to do this teacher is telling me to do this,
Right.
what am I to do? Mrs. Baker is the one that, yes.
So with LLI, now with SDC, you mentioned that there was 5 students.
Mhm.
How many, what staff members are in charge of those students?
So there's a teacher, and then there are 3 positions. 2 are there every day,
Mhm.
and 1 is split between 2 people, and we just hired another person to do the Tuesday, Thursdays. And they all report to Mrs. Colangelo, who's the teacher. But again, they then report to Mrs. Baker as well.
So the ratio will be 1 to 5, because you mentioned the group number.
No, it's
Well, when they do small groups, you mentioned.
that in SDC,
Okay,
which is our special day class,
Right.
which are our highest need students.
okay,
There's technically 4 students that come to school. 1 is in school from home because they're on home hospital. So there are 4 children and there are 4 adults in that classroom.
wow,
So it is 1 to
1
1.
to 1 to
1 to
1.
1, wow.
1 to 1.
Now, that's because we're just starting this program. This is the first year that we've had this
Okay.
program with kids. The kids haven't been in school. They've been,
Right.
so there's a lot that they are learning. I don't anticipate that we're gonna need it to be 1 to 1 as the kids learn systems and they learn what it's like to be at school. But right now, they've never been in school because they've spent the last year and a half, well, actually 2 years, because they didn't come back when we transitioned to hybrid. On Zoom, or they were never in school to begin with. And so, there's a learning curve.
So that gradually.
Yeah, because at least one of them has an aide and he's mainstream. So he goes different parts of the day. He goes into his grade level class and participates in his grade level class. And ideally, we want to get to the point where that whole class does that they have in-depth instruction within their small classroom, But then there are opportunities throughout the day that they actually go into their grade level class so they can interact with their peers, and learn social skills, and become members of their grade level class. That's what we want. And I know we will get.
To push in.
Yes, to push it.
If
So-
I'm
so-
using the term correctly.
Yeah, so with SDC, as far, you said those are instructional aides that handle those students
There is a teacher in that classroom and there are aides that support. the
that support
class.
that?
Yes.
And is there anything special that they have to do with those specific students who have different needs?
Yes, depending upon the student,
Okay,
yes. And we are training all of them so that they can all do that.
so we are training them or they haven't been trained yet?
So they've been trained in some areas.
Okay.
And we're continuing to train them in others.
So what would those areas be?
So they've been trained on working with behaviors, what it's like to set up an SDC class. We have somebody from the county coming in to talk to them about, it's called toileting with dignity.
I'm sorry, say it again?
Toileting.
Toileting with dignity,
I don't know
because the goal
Using the bathroom.
The goal is to get the kids to be potty trained.
Okay,
Some are farther along than others. And just like within our kindergarten classes, there are accidents. And so,
Sure.
we are bringing somebody in from the county to train them so that they know what it's like to actually work with a child that might have an
Okay.
accident and might need to work through the potty train. And in districts across the county and across the state, those are things that instructional aides do.
okay.
Two questions.
Mhm.
One, let's sort of continue with the training, that's great. Now, ideally, obviously, we hope that our aides stay with us, but if not, is this training gonna be done
Oh, yes.
periodically? So every year?
If we have a turnover, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Or is there any need for a refresher situation? like
think it
before
depends on the
school year
situation.
starts? I mean, because the other option I'm just thinking is like the student population could change.
Oh, yeah,
And in
absolutely.
SDC, every student is unique
Yes.
and has.
Yeah,
unique
so
challenges.
so I'm working with just Ms. Colangelo. She has a coach from the county. We're working on getting, so they're having conversations on what are the specific needs for that team, her and the aides. So they're gonna come on the 17th. Some of it has to do with behaviors. Students with Down syndrome have certain behaviors, students with autism have certain behaviors. So how do we support the students and come up with replacement behaviors? And so part of that is, as you said, it's an ongoing conversation,
Right.
because what might work for one student isn't gonna work for another.
Right.
And so they have every Wednesday where if we wanna bring somebody in, we can, they can work together as a team. And so I am working with Ms. Colangelo as the teacher on what support she thinks that her team needs, and then I will bring in whoever it is that they think that they need.
Okay, because again, ideally, our staff stays, ideally, our families and
Yeah.
students stay, but we know, especially coming out of COVID, so there's definitely been a lot of people moving and
Right.
relocating, so I just want,
And eventually, so right now, we're focusing on that team.
yeah,
Eventually, those trainings will go to the larger staff,
Mhm.
because as we get our kids to be mainstreamed and to go, they are all of our students. And so should one of our students be out on the play yard and something happens, any staff member should be able to feel that they can respond to that student and not have to call Ms. Colangelo to deal with it. We should all be able to support that child. And so right now, we're making sure that this team is solid, and then we will then transition to the larger community.
and actually, again, I guess just going back to the education effectiveness block grant, is there anything, like any sort of certifications or trainings that, I guess not trainings, but certifications that the teacher would need or want to move up? Is like, I guess, I know that she's
So
we're certified.
So part of
obviously.
that is under coaching to support inclusive practices in BDL.
Okay.
So I set aside some funds, and again, we can move this money around depending upon what needs are met.
Yeah, I'm just saying, it's great that we're focusing here, and then the goal is to extend it out.
Yes,
It's, for me, I'm thinking it would be, I obviously, we're meeting certification.
Yeah.
We're certified, but if there's a way to become best in class in this and become like an example to the county as the
that would
way,
be wonderful.
you know,
Yeah.
So
so
professional
what do we need to do to
Right,
get
sort of
there?
like national board certification,
Yeah.
absolutely, we could pay for part of that. There's also grants that I sent out to all of the teachers last week that there's a grant at the state that they as an individual have to apply for. But if they want to become nationally board certified, they can apply for a grant through the state. And they can get their national board certification. And then if they have their national board certification, they get a stipend from us because they're nationally board certified. So the state could pay for it for them, and then we would give them a stipend once they get it.
Yeah, and also I like the fact that our goal is to push in those students.
Yes.
Is there also a training for the student population? As to how
That's
they
part of the
can-
conversation with Ms.
Okay.
Colangelo, yes, and with our nurse, in terms of when we get to the point of bringing a student to a classroom, depending upon what the needs of those students are, we want to go and work with the kids first, so they know this student is part of your class. We want to welcome them in. They might do things a little bit different than you. This is how we're going to respond and how we're going to welcome them in, and we're not going to do X, Y, and Z. So yes, those are conversations that we're having, because we're not just gonna send a child to a class without first making sure that that child is gonna be welcomed and loved and supported within that class. Yes.
I guess another good training that I think I suggest for every staff is, and I know that some of the CPR training.
We do that every year.
So, and then who gets to have it? Does everybody gets
We
to
pay
have
for
it?
everybody.
Okay,
Nobody, we pay for everybody.
oh, great.
And do we have a standard list of training for our aides so that we make sure that they all, kind of like a checklist? To ensure that everybody gets the.
That's a good point,
The
so that based
mandated
on
stuff,
that,
yes. So for example, we just went through mandated reporting, we went through
Yes.
sexual harassment, that stuff, yes, and they all do it online. And the goal is to, so for example, with our insurance company, a district, depending upon your percentage of staff members that go through those classes, that affects your deductible. And so in order to have a zero deductible, so if you had 0 to 10% of your staff trained, your deductible is $100,000. If you have over 90% of your staff trained, your deductible is 0.
Yes.
We had 95%. We had 3 staff members that didn't get it done by the date, but we are following up with, and so we are at 100%.
Yeah, I like
Because
that.
I was getting a 0.
Yeah.
Our deductible was 0.
Well, and obviously, it makes sense that we're tracking the mandatory
Right.
trainings, but again, maybe a second column of like best in class
Yeah.
sort of certifications. And if it has a fee associated with it, is it something that the school could budget for?
Yeah.
So something they can aspire to and like
Right.
a wish list of trainings that they would like to have.
Yeah.
And we do part of that, we've done part of that in terms of like on our Wednesdays, we have Wednesdays, and so we've set aside funds that allow staff members if they want to be trained.
Mhm.
And then it just depends, like we paid towards something that might cost $500, we'll pay $150, and then they bridge the gap. Yes, those things have occurred.
Or like a site where they can see what trainings are available.
Yeah,
'Cause
we need to do a
oftentimes
better,
it's-
we need to do a better job of that. I like the idea of, one, having a checklist, but then 2, saying, these are available to you. And then just communicating that with staff, so they can all can go, for whatever reason that they want.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
The county of San Mateo, County of Education offers a lot.
They
of
offer a
free-
lot, yeah,
A
so
lot of free
Our-
on Zoom
our-
webinars.
preschool staff, the 3 of them do tons of the trainings that the county does.
Oh, that's
Love it.
around
And
preschool.
it's, you know, you don't have to be in preschool. Some of them are really good
Yeah.
because you're working with children.
Right,
Yeah.
correct,
Yeah, because oftentimes if they don't know about it, they won't sign up. for it.
correct,
Mhm.
yes, yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking, this is also, one of the things in my mind of obviously the substitute shortage and everything is just teacher retention.
Yep.
And giving these growth paths, as you put it, Joy, of like, this is a great place to be, because you're not going to be stagnant. You're going to be allowed to grow and,
Professional
develop
development.
yourself
Mhm.
professionally. So that's great.
And I just need to be mindful, because I sent one out the other day to middle school math, and I didn't realize it was $1,500. And she was like, this is great, Audra, is the school paying for it? Probably should have checked on that
Oh,
one
wow.
first, so we can again pay a part of it, but we can't pay the $1,500. Because we have to.
But as a small district, can we reach out to them and ask them if they're,
Yes and yes. Yes, we can reach out to them.
Work with us on a sliding scale.
Yeah.
We can ask.
Well, are there any scholarships or grants
I ask
available?
all the time,
Yeah.
yes. I know the answer if I don't ask.
And sorry, I just appreciate us taking the time to go
Yeah.
through this because it helps get sort of, so the SDC is kind of a subset of the special education umbrella.
Yes,
And then so within that special education umbrella, there's the
There's
the
various
SWAT section, but
levels.
then there's also the IEP
Mhm.
section, which is you're saying about 10 to 13%
Mhm.
of our students. So in the same regard, I guess it would just be great if there's, obviously, everyone's, I've heard nothing but great things from that department, about that department. But if there's growth opportunities for them as well, again, just be best in class. How
Right.
can we make Bayshore like this beacon of,
Like our kitchen.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so the next are my reports. And so vaccinations. As you know, they now have given the emergency authorization for 5 to 11-year-olds. The messaging in order for families to get their child vaccinated is to start with your primary physician. All of the pharmacies have it available, whether it's Safeway, Walgreens, etc. Again, going back to the website, myturn.ca.gov, they can register for community events. So there are some community clinics. So right now, and I'm going to push this out to our families tonight. Tomorrow through Friday, from 2:30 to 7, and Saturday from 9 to 4, there is the vaccination clinics at the San Mateo County Event Center. You have to register through the myturn.ca.gov, and you just pull up San Mateo County, and then that's what comes up. On November 17th, there's one at TRP in Jefferson Elementary. They chose 4 spots within the county. We were not one of them, but Jefferson Elementary was, and so I had pushed that out to our families. Unfortunately, there were only 500 slots, and so those filled up pretty quickly. We're hoping that Safeway is the one who's actually doing it, that they will give more slots, and then we'll start to have more events as well. I submitted to the state a request for us to do a pop-up here at Bayshore, so I'm waiting to hear back from them. And then I am working with Kaiser to hopefully set up a clinic here as well, in conjunction with our Wednesday food drive.
oh, very,
So if families are already here, kids get out at 1, they can just go right in. The other piece is the reason why I want it here and why schools want to give this as an opportunity is for convenience, because you've got to go twice.
right.
If it's Pfizer, once now and then again in 3 weeks. If it's Moderna, once now and again in a month. I think only Pfizer is the one that's approved though.
Yeah.
And so we want it to be convenient so that families know, like, this is where I need to go and I don't have to make another appointment type of thing. And then Brisbane has reached out to Safeway to try to get one at Brisbane, and he has said that we would partner together because we need so many. So there, hopefully within the next month to 2 months, we will have lots of opportunities for our families to get vaccinated.
We kind of know an amount
I don't have any idea right now.
from our families because.
I know our middle schoolers, but again, this just came out last week.
Right.
And so I will send a survey to find out if having it here would make it easier, if there's any barriers to them getting vaccinated, like do they not have a car, do they not know where? I can send out a survey to find out that information so we can support our families. Because I just want to, whatever they choose, I want to be able to make sure that there are no barriers one way or the other.
And then if we find out the numbers, then we can call whoever is close by, like Walgreens, and see if we can save those slots, guarantee those slots for us. That we're bringing you 50 people.
Right.
And you have 50 for us.
Yep. Next was Presby area elections. So I am bringing this up. It's up to you guys to decide. I know it was brought up at the county committee meeting. There are some districts that are transitioning from at-large positions to trustee area positions. We are currently at large, meaning you can live anywhere within the Bayshore community and become a board member.
Yeah.
Trustee areas takes your large community and divides it up into either 5 or 7. We are currently at large. Most of the elementary districts are staying at large because the space is not large enough to divide it up. The districts that are having conversations, if they are not already in trustee areas, are the high schools and the unifieds, because they encompass a larger portion. So what we could do, it's up to you guys, is I could bring in county council to give a presentation to you on the California Voting Rights Act. And the reason is because there were districts that had areas where there was no representation, even though there were children in that community. And so the Voting Rights Act said, hey, you really need to rethink this because you're not really doing a good job in terms of representing the community. So I can have county council come in and do a report and then talk about what that looks like. But again, we're really not large enough for us to truly divide up, especially since, you know, if we divide up, then you have we only have like 1,200 homes. So then if you divide up, then you have an even smaller pocket where you have to get a representative from. So that could lead to having empty seats.
I don't think there's a problem to be solved at this point, given the size of our district. If there was truly, I mean, I personally, if a representative wants to come in and review, give us a presentation on the Voting Rights Act, more information is great, but at the same time, I don't think that we have that problem that you just mentioned, so.
Anybody, any other input?
So I don't want to waste my time listening to that if we're not going to go there.
No, that's fair.
I think staying at large seems reasonable for our district, considering our size.
Yeah. I concur.
Need to
The
reconsider.
last things that I had were the block party. Just wanted to share how exciting it was. All of you were here. It was a fantastic turnout. It was beautiful. It was just what our community needed. The PTO did a phenomenal job. Those of you that the board members that were on the committee as well, thank you. The food trucks were fantastic.
A lot of them sold out.
A lot of them sold out. That line for Mr. Freeze, is that what it's called?
Yes.
We need
Mr.
to
Softy.
next time.
No,
Mr.
Mr. Softy.
Softy. It was a
Mr.
hot
Softy.
day. It was like
Mr. Softy.
the hottest.
Yeah, it was
like the weather, you couldn't have been. I mean,
I
it
had
was
the back
gorgeous.
door one for Mr. Owens that day. Yeah,
Hey, you didn't give me one.
you weren't around. You left
I
some.
was around.
I know, but he got
Text me, text me.
The
Mr. Frost, I'm running.
the pop-up art booths were fantastic.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful event, so I thought that was great. I have a PTO update. They were unable to be here tonight, so I will read their update. We would like to thank everyone who attended our second annual Bayshore Block Party. We had a huge turnout and we're very happy to witness our community coming together and sharing space with each other. I apologize for not being present here today, but we are preparing for a fundraiser that we're having next week. This is from Mrs. Columbus. PTO is having a pajama sale on Tuesday, November 16th through Friday, November 19th. It will be right after school during parent-teacher conferences in the outdoor eating commons. Please come through from 1:15 to 3. They are selling onesies, pajamas, and sleepwear ranging from $5 to $20. Right now it's cash only. They're currently working on setting up Venmo, PayPal, etc., but for now it's cash only. There will be a PTO meeting on Thursday, November 18th at 6 p.m. via Zoom. More information will follow. And then they're also having a Christmas gram from December 1st to the 10th. The cost per sleigh gram is $3, and they will be distributed on December 17th. And it'll be similar to the Red Ribbon Week candy grams. I will also ask them at the next update to share with us how much they raised from the block party, because I was unable to get that, ask them that question. And just thank you again for all your support. Midway construction update I shared on the agenda. Everyone has a copy of the things that have happened over the next couple of weeks. They have said they're going to communicate those on a weekly basis, so I'll start pushing those out. And then I will also follow up with them regarding the updated timeline, where the park is, and how we can give input on what attributes of the park will exist, so that the school can access it.
Will they have a groundbreaking ceremony or at some time, or they haven't
They
discussed
said they
that?
were going to.
Right.
I told them that they needed to invite us. They have not been invited, so I don't think that it's happened yet, but I will follow up with that.
I think that they might just be getting things ready
Yeah.
to prepare
I
for
will
it.
follow up. And
You wanna
because
do the ground?
I did reach out to them and said that we wanted to be a part of it, and they said they would let us. Upcoming holiday schedule, we know there's no school and the district is closed this Thursday and Friday in honor of Veterans Day. We will have minimum days all next week for parent teacher conferences, so we get out at 1 o'clock. I have no idea why my name appeared on there. That is so weird. I think I copied it.
I'm like, that looks different.
Yeah.
Does it show up on yours?
No, we are
No.
looking. really
Yeah, how interesting.
We got the clean one.
It's just now. We are having a staff, our staff Thanksgiving potluck is on Wednesday, November 17th. We're sending out a survey to our staff to ask them what they want to bring. I will send it to you guys as well. It's going to be rotating, so it's just during whenever everybody's lunch is. So whenever they have lunch, they can come down and participate. We have no school the week of November 22nd through 26th for Thanksgiving. The district will be closed on Thursday and Friday, but will be open on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of that week, but obviously no one is here. And then I wanted to share, the flyer was posted on there as well, but board member Fakua can add, we have our pit annual Christmas in the Park, very excited. This year's theme is Winter Wonderland, Saturday, December 18th from 9 to 11:30, providing gifts for newborn to 17 years old. Registration is required. That is the registration link, and I will post that on our website for our families. Is there a deadline for when they need to be registered by?
December 1st.
December 1st.
But you know, that's always gonna be pushed back.
Right. We'll get as many as we can by December 1st. And that was all that I had.
Quick question on, or actually more of a comment on the parent-teacher conferences. Would it be possible to get a report back as the percentage they were able to hit 100%?
Yeah, absolutely.
Who won the contest for the block party?
I believe it was Mr. Gertis's class.
What was the contest for the block party?
It was,
How
it was,
how many
I
students?
don't know, but I
attended?
will find
it
out.
was, it was
I-
sent out.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got the email.
I know that he won, his class won for costumes for
It's on the
Halloween.
PTO Facebook.
Okay, but I will find out. That's all I have.
Okay. Right, we'll move on to item 11, board member reports. Are there any board member reports?
There was just a few things I wanted to echo with regards to PTO. I mean, they did such a phenomenal job. It was quite memorable to see everyone involved, from teachers to administration, to see the community come together and families just really enjoying their time with the food and entertainment. It was really an eventful day to see all the cars displayed. Dr. Pittman's truck made it in there, and we should have did a like a raffle or something, right? For best in show.
Next year.
Yeah, next year. So those are just
For
ideas.
best in show?
Yeah. What I also wanted to mention is the pickup and drop off. There seems to be some things that are going on with especially the pickup. There's only one, from what I understand, there's only one staff member that's out there, and I believe it's Mr. Allen.
Mhm.
But parents are coming to pick up their kids, but they're not pulling up fully and
In the parking lot?
in the parking lot, in the
Okay.
turnstile.
So they're stopping at the end and then everybody's backing up?
Right, exactly. So there's just, and then there's been, some arguments from what I hear. So it's probably something that we just want
Okay.
to attend to
Yep.
Miss Miriam is also out there in the morning.
in the mornings. Yeah, but in the
This is
pickup,
after
In the
school.
pickup.
Okay.
the pickup, yeah.
We will-
I think both of them are important. And I wanted to bring up solar panels. Have we ever had an opportunity to think about bringing solar panels?
I think
Since
about
the
it
beginning.
on a daily basis.
I mean, because there are programs now that they're a lot less expensive, and
Yes,
if we
the
can,
cost is definitely coming down.
yeah,
And I can relook, because the last time I looked, it was still quite hefty.
yeah,
And so I will relook again. Yes.
because
If we do, we need power in the parking lot.
Yeah.
yeah,
Power in the
think-
parking lot.
yeah, we can probably cut.
Electric car chargers would be fantastic.
There you go.
Yeah, looking at the tables, just on
Solar
PG alone, PG&E alone, it's way up there, and I think over time we
Yes,
could really
it's good. Yeah, I
have a
agree.
huge savings
Yep,
and
absolutely.
cool. That's it. Anybody else?
Like shade during the block party.
Yeah.
No, but we have been thinking about it before the school was built. It was one of the things that we had brought up,
Right.
but we couldn't afford it at the time.
Yeah. All right. Bring it back to the table.
Oh, the block party was okay. There were some hiccups here and there, in the beginning, but, we can do better. I guess it's just my doing of events, that we are hosting the events. So I was just like wanted to make sure that it's presentable in a very clean and, tidy place. That's just a little, in the beginning and then towards the end. But we can do better for the block party. The other thing I would like to hear is a report from our Boys and Girls Club. How is our children? I heard that our young ones now are going up to the Boys Club. So I remember in the beginning, I wanted that to be separated because if you notice, a lot of our old senior grandparents, they walk here just to pick up the children. And then, so now they have to go all the way up there, walking, and now the time has changed, it's getting darker. So I don't know when that change was effective for our little ones to go back there to the.
So
Boys and
it
Girls Club.
happened 2 weeks ago. And there was a multitude of reasons for us making the change. Part of it was us wanting to increase the involvement of our middle schoolers. And so having them down here, our kindergarten still stays down here because our kindergarten classes are better equipped for kindergarten than having the kids go up there. And so it's just us trying to, we wanted them separate originally because we had way more kids involved. Since COVID, there's less kids, but we're really trying to figure out how do we beef up the numbers so we can get more. And so, we're just trying different things to get kids involved and to make sure that it truly is a partnership. But I will ask one of them to come and I will add them as a report at the December meeting to give an update on what activities are, how many kids are participating, what activities occur, those types of things, yes.
You're more than welcome to come and join us, or if you have any choice to donate. If you have any choice that it's collected from your collections, feel free to donate if you want to. So now the gym is actually available if those children are up there for children to play in the evening, like instead of them going to McDonald's.
Right.
Going to the liquor store, or just spending the time outside, they can be here playing in the gym.
Yep.
Bouncing some balls. That's it. Just thank you for all the staff who were, I was watching Mr. Dyson and his production team. Like everybody was like, he assigned to something. Such a wonderful to see those children strive at a very early age.
To get that experience was
Right,
really good.
right,
Yeah,
right
because he
away.
totally let them lead it and troubleshoot through everything that was happening that day. I think considering that the Bayshore PTO, that was their first year and just learning what to do and what not to do, I know that they had a debrief meeting on Friday. I wasn't able to attend, but I hope that they got a lot of feedback from it. I was curious about Baylands. Is there any progression on there?
There is, I've actually met with Miss, and I can do this at the December board meeting, do a more formal presentation, but Superintendent Presta, our ex-architect, and I have been having conversations with them on what a school could look like, so we're still moving forward in terms of designing a 612 campus. And so they are submitting to the city of Brisbane, kind of an updated, because they've made a lot of changes since COVID hit. So I can have that presentation ready for you guys in December. Yep.
So you know how Mr. Waterman, what is his name?
Yeah, Steve Waterman.
Donate some money for Christmas for families. I was wondering if there's any way we can tap into some resources to get funds to make bags, you know, or a turkey to give out to our families. How can we do that? You know, that's a way of, you know, I don't know if everybody will.
Safeway turkey meals.
Yes, or, you know, sign up for a meal if they want to, they can pick up
For families and.
for families that, who wants to.
Right.
That's it from my side, thank you. Thank you for being here, Annette, thank you for everything. Thank you, sir. Dr. Pittman.
Were there any other board reports? Everyone? Okay, I'll try and be quick since we're at the end here. Definitely just wanted to, again, thank the candidates for coming this evening. We're fortunate to have you both as part of this community. Again, also as a participant who enjoyed the block party, it went great from my viewpoint. I thought it went, I mean, obviously when you're behind the scenes, you can kind of see that, but as a participant, it was fantastic. And got rave reviews from the kids as well. So that was great. So thank you to everyone that participated and helped make that happen. Also, Ms. Fafua and I did participate in an equity audit meeting, and I believe you guys will be lucky enough to participate in this week, is it?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow
evening, yeah.
Okay, great.
You forgot.
No, I forgot to say about that, but it was very interesting.
Any expectations?
Well, yeah, it's data collection right now.
Yes,
So, yeah.
you guys did okay.
And then I guess just also wanted to follow up on the landscaping role and responsibility. Was that presented?
It was, and he comes in every Saturday now for 4 hours.
Oh,
And
great.
he's doing landscape.
That's fantastic.
How's our power washing?
That's another power wash.
We both failed on that.
Something happened to the power wash.
We didn't get to use it.
We didn't do nothing.
We were unable to
We
utilize it.
couldn't hook it
I ended
up.
up using the sprayer
Um,
because we couldn't get it to work.
Mr. Sun returned it, so we're waiting for a replacement.
Okay.
And yeah, thank you for the presentation on the SDC and the special education and the tiers. That was very helpful. And this is just a brainstorm now, and I'm just bringing it up because, you know, again, I know it's may come across cheesy, but like the whole best in class, it's like, I'm wondering if there's, and again, I understand survey fatigue, but I'm wondering if there's a way we could reach out to folks and put together some sort of board sponsored survey of what they would envision as best in class, what they need if they feel like, or maybe they're already there. And it's like they could emulate that and say, I feel like we're doing this best in class, and we can share that with other folks. So I don't know if that's something we could.
No, it's
look at.
something we can definitely talk about in terms of how do we get that information. And part of that is the vision of what the board wants in terms of for Bayshore. And so then this is the bar that we want. So one, do you think that you're already there? And if you're not there, what do you need in order to get there?
Yeah. And also, I mean, I'd love to leverage also to allow people to share success stories.
Absolutely.
Like, no, we are there and
Yes,
in
and
this
this is
area
why.
and this
Yes.
is why. So it's not
Yes.
just, you know, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, and that is all I had.
And one success story is a group of boys were, you know, the volunteer ones that they had to pick up the garbages, including Puna, that was a bunch of that, and I was just standing there, and one of them say, this is the best Bayshore event ever. And I was like, wow. So that really, as a, the event planner, part of the committee and being a community member, I was like, we need to do more of these, and not just wait for the block party.
Yeah,
Well, it showed how great a space we have
That's
here.
right.
And whoever came up with the layout, it's great to have some on the, some of the vendors
The
up
retail here,
here, and
absolutely.
then
Mhm.
have
Food down there.
activities for the younger kids,
So
and
in that-
haircuts and everything.
Yeah.
In that conversation, I was having, of course, he's not on the Daily City Council anymore. I was having a conversation with Supervisor Canada, which I need to have with St. Daily Cities. I would love for us to do summer music in the park.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter if it's a windy day, because they could be on the stage, people could listen to it. And so I would love for us to be a spot that Daily City sponsors in terms of doing summer events.
kind of like what Brisbane does.
Yeah.
Do we have enough of a PA system to support live music?
So
yeah.
we do need a
Okay.
better mic. That was
Yeah,
one of the things.
or they
about-
they can bring their own equipment as well.
Yeah, but
So,
on that
Yeah, because
particular
usually
day.
music in the park, they bring their own equipment.
yeah, they do.
And then they connect
Okay.
to the speakers that we have, and
Mhm.
all of that is set up over there.
Right.
If we need to buy different stuff, that's a conversation I would have with Mr. Dyson,
Okay,
because obviously, I don't know.
or maybe.
You see what I do.
Yeah.
So we need to go and sit into those board meetings, not the council. Of course, we need to bring this proposal to the council, but they have a commissioner, which is planning commissioners.
And is that where they,
We
Okay.
can go there to that meeting and bring that,
Okay.
to them.
And in addition to music, we could come up with, maybe bring in a guest chef to have some sort of special menu meal that they could use our kitchen
love that?
and act as a fundraiser.
Yeah.
Where, you get, I'm just
I like that.
brainstorming here. Anyways, I
And
know everyone wants.
Another good thing happened last night at the council meeting was one of the Bayshore alumni here from Bayshore is now being appointed to be in the Parks and Rec.
Oh, that's
Oh, wow.
nice.
Cool.
And then he's from over here, he's alumni.
That's great.
Saul Miranda. So,
Excellent.
Bayshore is.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. All right,
Thank you
and
so
with
much.
that, what time is it? Now my watch died.
8:40.
It is 8:40. We are adjourned.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone. We are no longer live.
No close